So this will be part of the blooper reel.
Okay.
It's always good to have those.
Thing is in purple. That's a good sign.
Mine's purple too. Ken, are you purple?
Not today.
So I turned off my echo cancellation. Now I only hear one of me.
And that's more than enough. Although, I don't know why we invited Ken on in the first place.
He's so much trouble.
Oh, hi.
I'm getting that echo again. Don, are you
Welcome back. This is the Don and Gary doing... Welcome back. Jesus. Are we rusty or what? Am I rusty or what?
No, you're Don, and I'm Gary. Rusty isn't here anymore.
Listen,
I'm hearing you guys perfectly.
let's do this one more time.
Heard that before.
Hi, Gary.
Hey, Don.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining the Don and Gary Doing 60 podcast. Still standing, still laughing, still probably should be supervised or at least observed by a professional psychiatrist. We're here to unwrap and unpack and navigate the world at his age.
Oh, okay.
You can find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Of course, watch us on YouTube at Pfeiffer Pod. You can catch all of our old episodes there, all of our new episodes, all of our shorts and funny gag reels. So please take a look at that. So Gary, what are we doing today? Who are we talking to?
So we have a guest who's joining us, as I mentioned earlier, someone we did not go to high school with, but
Right.
he is a member of the club. He's a neighbor of mine and a friend of mine. I've known him since 2006, so that is 20 years.
Wow.
You mentioned kilt. So back in 2017, when I went to the UK, it was for their wedding. He and his husband at that point had been together 20 years, and they wanted to have a big celebration and do like a recommitment ceremony, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, asked me, would you go? I'm like, Scotland? Absolutely, I'll go. But would you wear a kilt? I'm sure I've mentioned once or like 15 times on this podcast and 3Ps that, yeah, I'll wear a kilt. So it was his wedding to where I wear the kilt.
Yep.
And I made a reference also about his husband. He and his husband are local business owners here in my neighborhood. And since 2016, so for the past 10 years, his husband is the only man I've allowed to put his hands in my mouth. Because he's my dentist.
But I'm bummed.
So pause, 2, 3, 4. Yes. So he co-owns the business with his husband. His husband is the dentist, and Ken runs the show.
Mm-hmm.
So that's who's coming on. People say that I do a lot of volunteer work. It pales in comparison to what he does.
Yeah.
On top of being a business owner and so on.
Yeah.
So.
Reading his bio was like, oh my gosh, we're going to have to make a 2-parter out of this one just to read his bio and all his volunteer work. It's crazy.
And we'll go through, I've got the list and we'll go through it. But one of the conversations we'll have with him is he and his husband are talking about retirement when.
Okay.
So obviously that'll fit into the theme of what we talk about. And we'll talk about a few of his favorite volunteer efforts. We can't do them all because there's a list of, I've got 11 on the list, and that's the shortened list that he gave us. Yeah. And apparently as a teenager, he did some, modeling and acting.
Oh, I know. We got a couple of samples of the modeling and acting.
So to quote your good friend Lisa Rinna, who is an actress and former star of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and who's just come out with a new book, you better believe I'm going to talk about it. So with that introduction, is he on hold? Do we want to let him in?
He's not on hold just yet. So
okay.
He's got 4 minutes. Something tells me he's going to pop in right at 10:15. We're right at 15 minutes in because we'd asked for that. And he seemed to be a very punctual person.
Oh, he is. Yeah.
Unlike myself.
Okay. So this is for 4 minutes. We got to do this.
Let's just do this for literally. Maybe we can make a YouTube channel of people just watching us do this.
And for our listeners, we're stretching. We're miming that we're stretching time.
We're getting paid for this.
All right. Well,
So again, I'm sorry, this guest has been very problematic. I think we should keep the check, don't send him or pay him anything. We've toggled him. He is toggled now. So hopefully, Gary, I'm so sorry to interrupt. Maybe we should start again.
Well, I'm going to see if I start talking. I only hear one of me right now, so this is good.
Yes.
Now, can you talk?
I only hear one of you also.
I'm very excited. This is
And I never want to hear more than one of you, Gary. So now that we figured that out, time's up.
Yep.
Thanks a lot for coming.
Nice to see you guys. Bye-bye.
Okay. Yeah, we're out of time. I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to talk more, but
anyway,
right.
I'm so sorry.
Act 2.
Stretch.
All right. So where do you want me to start, from the very beginning, or?
I try. Let's do the beginning again. Just make it quick.
Yes. Okay.
Ken has things to do. I have a life.
I gotta pee. No. All right, everyone. Well, welcome. After a few false starts, we're back. Our guest today is Ken Craig. He's a friend and neighbor of mine who I've known for 20 years. We have volunteered together for the fire department since 2006, so we're in our 21st year. I started saying earlier, we also both volunteered for the police department's disaster preparedness program. I did it for 6 years. Ken was actually instrumental in putting that program together in the whole curriculum. But he volunteers so much more than I do. And I asked him for a list, and this is a pared down list of only 11 different organizations he volunteers for at different levels. And this is aside from his business that he co-owns with his husband. This is aside from, having a life outside of all this stuff. I don't know when he sleeps.
Sleep's overrated.
Real quick, his current list: International Police Association, he's a member. The Federation of Gay Games Sports Committee member in martial arts, and we'll talk about that. International Association of Gay and Lesbian Martial Artists, Secretary of the Board of Directors. He's a Grandmaster ranked martial artist in 3 martial arts disciplines. I'm not even going to try to pronounce them. Northern California Regional Intelligence Center, a private sector member. Federal Bureau of Investigation Citizens Academy San Francisco Alumni Association member. San Francisco District Attorney's LGBT Forum member. San Francisco Police Department LGBTQ plus Advisory Forum. He's a community co-chairperson. I'm a member of that group as well. Community Patrol Service, he's the chief. His main baby, that's been around celebrating its 20th year, is the Castro Community on Patrol, one of the original founders and currently serving on the board of directors as secretary and as assistant chief. ID8.
Yeah, it's a local group in our neighborhood that does a lot of community meetings. They get politicians in, they do safety meetings and so on. So it's kind of like a neighborhood association, but it's not formally called neighborhood association.
Oh, okay. And also he's a member of the safety committee in the condo development where he lives. Okay, I need a glass of water or something. I'm tired. But yeah. Ken, when do you sleep?
As I said, sleep is overrated. Who needs it? We sleep when we die, right?
And I did want to back up and say, I'm thinking his accent is French, but I'm not quite sure.
At least you did not call me English, so you can live.
But you're from
I
Scotland.
am indeed, as you well know, from traveling there with me.
Yes, I've mentioned, as I told Dawn, once or 15 times that I wore a kilt to your wedding celebrating your 20th year's
20th anniversary.
Yeah. So, which means you're coming up on 30 next year.
That's crazy.
Wow. That is crazy. That trip was 9 years ago.
I know, that seems astonishing,
crazy.
Doesn't it? I mean, sometimes it seems like yesterday, and other times it seems like 100 years ago.
He's still hawking those pictures of himself in the kilt.
He looks really good. I mean, the reality is, I think everyone looks good in the kilt. Every single person that we had about 90 men in kilts from all over the world. Every single person looked fantastic in those kilts. So, if you're ever looking for a good outfit, buy a kilt. They really do look good on everybody.
And that trip, by far, was the most amazing trip I've ever taken. I've been to Europe many times, but Paul and Ken do trips right. They travel often. They travel with friends. They are the organizers. You basically just wake up on time and show up, and they will tell you where to go and what to do.
As long as you remember your
But it's
passport, right?
so, yes. Yeah, this was the trip where John left his old passport, his new passport at home and brought his old passport to SFO. And so I caught the plane and I said, I'll see you in Scotland. But amazing trips. It's the only trip I've done with them, but it's like a well-oiled machine.
And it's all Paul. All
so
credit to Paul. He does all of that. He's a very good organizer.
So other thing we'll talk about at some point is you two have talked about retirement.
Yes.
When and what that's going to look like. And then we'll get into other things. But welcome. We can just jump right into it. Let's start with Castro on Patrol. That's your big baby of 20 years. Tell us what it is, how it started, all those good things.
Community Safety Walking Patrol. So started in 2006 following a number of violent assaults in the Castro neighborhood, the LGBTQ neighborhood, that got a lot of publicity. So the neighborhood became very concerned about what was happening. At the time, there was a reasonable association with the police department, but not necessarily any trust that the police department would do anything effectively as far as protecting the neighborhood any better. So the leather community actually came together. They started hosting meetings. I had been teaching another entity called Triangle Martial Arts Association, where I used my martial arts experience to teach to the LGBT community. One of my students was a member of the leather community, said, there's this meeting happening about the assaults. Would you come and speak at it? So I was like, yeah, I'd be happy to. So I turned up, the local supervisor was there, TV crews were there. They started discussing what was happening and how they could resolve that or protect the community a little more. I spoke about self-defense because I'd been teaching that for many years, and about the need for people to look after themselves and perhaps to return back to the Harvey Milk whistle days. And we could discuss that more if people don't know about that, but that was a concept thing. So I thought I was going to a meeting to just discuss about safety and perhaps offer training every now and again. 2 weeks later, I got the call that the group that was meant to be doing the training program for Castro Community on Patrol had dropped out and there was nobody to do it. So one of the local sergeants, who was also LGBT from SFPD, asked, you do training for Triangle Martial Arts, could you build a program for Castro Patrol? So I said, okay, I'll do that. So I thought I would build the program, train a few people, and that would be it. And I suddenly ended up on the board and doing most of the training and ending up helping to run the organization. And to be honest, I really enjoy it. It's a very positive thing for the neighborhood. And I was doing self-defense classes for the community through my Triangle Martial Arts group. And then it kind of morphed through Castro Community on Patrol into the Castro area. So we've probably done over probably 1,000 self-defense classes over that 20-year period. So it's a kind of positive. I enjoy it. Keeps me out of trouble. Well, it doesn't really, but
what I forgot. I forgot to mention on top of this long list of things is that he's also involved, as he's mentioned, self-defense classes and also CPR classes, because they've done them, in my building several times, and we try and promote it to other buildings. So the Castro Community on Patrol, was there another program that existed that you modeled this after, or was it kind of you guys put it together yourselves?
The answer to that is yes and no. The Castro has had a long history, ever since it became LGBT. It's had a long history of people going in and assaulting people and causing problems and targeting the LGBT community. So there have been various groups that have been stood up to try and look after the community and protect the community. In general, they only lasted typically about 1 to 3 years for various reasons. A lot of times the assaults would disappear, so the need for the organization kind of faded and people would drift away to other things. Sometimes it was because they got into trouble with law enforcement because they wouldn't work with law enforcement. There was one particular group that walked around with axe handles and shotguns and were protecting the neighborhood. And that worked for about 2 years, I think, until there was an incident where law enforcement had to get involved and there was the possibility of charges. So that group disbanded. So when we were setting up, there's another well-known group around the country in the US called the Guardian Angels.
Right.
And they go about their operations in a slightly different way. They don't really work with law enforcement very much. They see themselves as the law enforcement entity. They go out in large groups of 15 to 20 and they largely intimidate the community that they're trying to protect and serve. We didn't want that to be the case. So from my law enforcement background and my martial arts background, when I came into the meeting and they asked me to build the program, my thought process was we need to work with local government, we need to work with the law enforcement agencies, we need to build trust, and we need to have a more long-term concept. It can't just be reactionary. We can't just be going out there to prevent these assaults and then the whole thing disappears, and then 3 years later more assaults come. You have to build it again, and then it disappears again. So I wanted something more long term. So the concept was more around the idea of if we go out on a patrol and it's quiet, that's a good thing, and that's what we want. And beyond that, teaching people how to look after themselves, concepts of what to do if there is trouble for them, how to respond to it, how to react to it, and how to help other people that are in trouble. And building a relationship with the police department and the DA's office so that we could help individuals within the community understand how the legal system works. A lot of people are very unclear as to how the legal system works, how long it takes, how complicated it is, and how difficult it sometimes is to bring a case. They only see it from their side of things. So the perception sometimes is that law enforcement isn't doing anything, they don't care, they don't have any interest. And a lot of times it's not that at all. It's just a miscommunication, misunderstanding. So we try and plug some of those gaps to help the community know what's going on a little better, help people that have been victims understand how to navigate through the system and get information they need, and at the same time try and make the community just a little safer.
There's also a trust issue between the community in certain cities, and has been. There's years where the police department in general across the country was, talked down to, whatever. They were seen as the enemy, and like, no, but they're here to help. So there's a trust issue in some cases between community and the police, where maybe they don't want to reach out because they're afraid of repercussions.
I think certainly in the past, the police department was one of the entities that was legally prejudicial towards the LGBT community. They were raiding bars, they were arresting people, they were putting their photographs in newspapers when they were arrested. They were really destroying a lot of lives with that. And I think a lot of chiefs of police now recognize that that was incorrect and it wasn't a good thing to be doing. The challenge with that is, even though most departments are better now and are more open and aware and understanding of the LGBT community, and the need for that to be a part of society and a part of their operations, many people that come from smaller cities to larger cities like San Francisco still have that former idea of the impression and of the biased and prejudiced police officers. And it's really hard to get over that.
And unfortunately, and I've seen, unfortunately, in parts of the country that has changed with cities that are not as progressive, where there have been raids on questionable from questionable law enforcement in different parts of the country, where they've actually gone into LGBTQ plus meeting spaces, bars, or whatever, what have you, and they've actually tried to conduct some kind of a shutdown or try and take people in. So unfortunately, I was going to ask, on the flip side of that, have you seen any spikes in notifications now from the community with the new administration? Have there been vigilantes out there that have been causing more of a ruckus?
Fortunately not. We did anticipate that. During the first Trump administration, one of the things that we also do with Castro Community on Patrol is we connect to a lot of nonprofits within the neighborhoods. So we're very well connected to what is going on at the base level as far as violence in the community, problem people, the unhoused that might have mental issues that do cause regular problems. So we try and keep a finger on all of those pulses. And when the first Trump administration came in, we recognized that this could be challenging for the LGBT community. So we kept a finger on that pulse as to what was going on. We talked to local nonprofits. We talked to the entities that are out on the streets all the time. We can only go out when we have volunteers, so that's typically weekends and the evenings. Although we go out to special events, they're on the street much more. So we did anticipate more violence or more people coming in and targeting. Didn't really happen in the first administration. During the second administration with ICE and everything, we knew that San Francisco was likely to be a target of ICE operations and a more expanded negative connotation. Fortunately, up to this point, we have not seen that, but we have done work to kind of prepare. We're definitely talking to the police department and the DA's office. We've talked to Mayor Lurie. We had him at a meeting that Gary was at, where Mayor Lurie and Chief Lou, our new Chief of Police, was there. And we discussed specifically ICE and what their response would be. We had seen the DA the previous time and chatted with her about it. So I think it's up till now, at least, it has not been what we anticipated it being, but that could always change at any point. So we're just keeping an eye on it. We're prepared, and if something happens, we will work with local law enforcement, and we'll work with our local nonprofits to try and have a response to it.
So I want to back up, just clarify a few things about Castro Community on Patrol. So since 20th year, so do you see yourself as like a bridge between the police department and DA, and the business owners, the community, the local
Yeah,
organizations,
absolutely.
to kind of,
In a number of different
okay.
ways. It
And
works in a couple of different separate ways. A lot of people think law enforcement should be, because they're paid, they think they should be handling everything every single thing that happens in a neighborhood and a community. The understanding of how many officers are on shift on any given day is not very well known within the local community. So the feeling is if you call for somebody being noisy on a street corner, a unit should show up within 5 minutes, they should handle it, and it should all be resolved. The reality is within most big cities, at least San Francisco and many other cities, law enforcement is responding to more priority calls on a call-by-call basis. Their computers are filled with a list of calls that they've got to go to, and they're running through those. But any more important call that comes in, that prioritizes, and they have to go to that instead. So there's normally not enough officers to deal with everything that's going on in the community at any one time. So it does need some capacity to fill that gap a little bit with non-sworn people that can maybe handle an issue without needing a police officer to turn up. So we try and fill that gap a little bit by making people more aware of what's going on and why there might be a slight delay in police coming. And then the other side of that is just making people aware of what they can do themselves, when they should call, who they should call, what they should do to try and record things, when they should report. Because one of the challenging things within the community is a lot of people, sometimes because of past experience, sometimes just because of not really understanding how the system works, choose not to call, not to report when they see things. Because they maybe think somebody else,
they don't want to
they
get
either don't want to
involved.
get involved, or they think somebody else is going to make the call, or they think if I call and report this, they're going to think I'm stupid and they're going to give me a hard time over it. So there's a number of different things that make people believe they shouldn't make a 911 call, or they shouldn't make a non-emergency call when they see something. So we try and just educate people and encourage them to make that call. You may be the only one making that call, and it may be huge to make a difference to that situation. So,
And to the point you made earlier, San Francisco has never been known to be a city where we have police like on the
right,
streets, like
not
beat
like not like
cops,
New York.
walking in the
Yeah,
various neighborhoods. It's not because they don't want to. It's like we don't have
right.
enough police officers to do that. They're trying to keep up, as you said, with the priority of all the other calls that come in, and they have to
Yes,
prioritize them. And maybe someone that got robbed at the liquor store is not as important as the woman who was, physically attacked or something worse. So they have to
yeah,
prioritize, and you just don't have the
right.
resources to do that. Um,
It-
Castro Community on
That's
Patrol is also a
Yes, all
volunteer-based
volunteer, all
organization.
non-sworn. So we are not police officers. We're not official law enforcement. So everything that we do is basically trying to encourage people to conform and to be reasonable within the neighborhood. So we try and encourage compliance, but we cannot force it. Um,
But
Right.
I think also that one of the benefits of these types of groups is it's creating more community
yes,
outreach.
Mhm.
Neighborhood watches are also very
absolutely.
effective, and that's just for being aware and even having just as simple as like locally here, we have a thread of phone numbers that we can put out, like just be aware that this is happening right now, or just saw this, just so you know. So I think the more that you do the outreach to bring the community together, the less apt people are going to be to not say something, see something, and report it, or at least put a string of information out there to their
Yeah,
neighbors to know what's going
absolutely. It
on.
definitely helps. The more
So,
information that gets spread around, there are definitely people that will never hear the information because they don't want to, or they just miss it and they don't get informed. But the more that we can inform people of what to
mm,
do, what to think about, and how to respond, slowly the community becomes safer and better because people are more willing to make that call. Um, Equally, we can help assuage real problems or real concerns. Gary, I don't know if you remember, there was a group called Patriot Prayer that planned to come into San Francisco with long rifles, automatic rifles, and so on, and they were going to clean up the streets of San Francisco. And this was their intention. They announced it publicly for months before they were planning to come in. And the community got extremely concerned about what was going to happen because these were the group that had also gone to, can't remember the city right now, but they were in a city where the vehicle drove through a group of protesters and killed a couple of people. And they were on the streets. I think it was Missouri or somewhere. So there was real concern within the neighborhood about these people coming in and causing problems and being there with firearms walking around the streets. So we got together with the police department, the DA's office, the mayor's office. We started chatting. The FBI was there. We talked about what the plans were and how things were going to happen. And the city really had a good concept of what they were going to do. We were able to bring some of that information out to the community and say, hey, like, they're prepared. They've got plans in place. If things go bad, they were ready to respond to it. And ultimately what happened was they had put so many restrictions in place that Patriot Prayer ended up at a small park outside of the city. And that was the only impact that they had. I think they did go to Golden Gate Park, but the Parks Police and the FBI were there, the SFPD was there. There was so many law enforcement that they really could not do anything effectively. So their plans were quashed. But just being able to provide that information to the community helped people feel a little safer and feel more comfortable. So being able to be that bridge in that sense is a very useful thing for us to be.
I want to touch back on the volunteers. So volunteer based, how do you get your volunteers and how does one volunteer? What do they need? What is required of a volunteer?
The hardest thing is finding volunteers. We used to get quite regular volunteers coming through annually, about 15 to 20 joining us each year until COVID. COVID changed everything. It changed everything for many, many people. We lost most of our volunteers, so we went down to about 6 volunteers from about 30 volunteers pre-COVID. Those 6 volunteers were most of the chiefs, the people that were running the organization and were deeply invested in it. So we kept it going during the COVID period. We were actually going out and putting up the signs for, distancing and chatting with people. So we kept patrols going through that period. But since then, every volunteer organization that needs volunteers has had a difficult time in finding volunteers. Not quite sure what the genesis of that is, whether it's just people's lives changed after COVID and their focus changed, whether they're just not ready to come back out and volunteer. But we have been finding it difficult to get volunteers. To volunteer, we ask them to read an online manual, which gives them most of the training content. And then we bring them to a Zoom class, which is a 2-hour class. So we cover what's in the manual and we cover a few other things there. And then we just ask them to patrol with us, kind of like a walk-along patrol for 4 supervised patrols. So they understand what we're doing, how we do it, the policies and procedures. Sure. And then it's just, we ask for 1 patrol a month, which is a 3-hour patrol a month. So it's a fairly low bar to enter with us.
Do you think it...
Done?
But do you think it's anything to do with generational changes that are out there with the kids? And I mean, we're all in the same club, but do you feel that maybe there's a distance because of the generational gap that's taking place right now?
I think that's undoubtedly a part of it. I think there is a different focus on the younger generation. They are looking at different things. They're involved in different things. I think it could also be that because we're law enforcement adjacent, I think a lot of young people are not necessarily really connected into what law enforcement is and how important it is and how it really, it has its problems, but it's an essential part of society. So I think for some people, it just might be not something that they're interested in engaging in, finding more about, or getting involved in. So there's a number of challenges with finding volunteers in this particular realm. But it's difficult to say for sure exactly what it is.
And I think with any volunteer organization, because we both obviously volunteer for several, is that there's a certain population of volunteers that age out, move away, unfortunately pass away, or they're very enthusiastic in the beginning and they sign up and then you don't
burn
see
out.
them again. Our list, because Ken and I are on the same team, neighborhood team for the fire department. When I took over as the coordinator, there was a list of like 300 plus names just in our neighborhood of people who had done the training. Doesn't mean they're going to show up to an event or to a deployment if something, a real disaster happens. But that was a hefty list. And I would go through and update it every so often. And there's people that, as I say, age out, pass away, move away, whatever. And over the years, I've whittled it down. For a while, it was down to 90 names. I just went through another sweep. We're down to 38 names. Those people that are all current in their certification. So at least they still have interest because you have to renew your certification every 2 years. But if it's been like 5 years and they haven't shown up or done anything, I'm sorry, bye. Because you're going to need to do the whole thing over again if you want to join.
Pretty soon it's going to be just Gary and I.
It could be a generational thing. Yeah. And, honey, I'm not getting any younger, so.
No, you're not.
Thank you, Don.
But can I ask one quick one to Ken again? Ken, why all the passion for this volunteer? Why? I mean, where does this come from for you? What motivates you so much to be so active in so many organizations? Where is that coming from?
It's a good question. I think when I was growing up in Scotland as a youngster, I knew I was a little bit different from everybody else. So there was a piece of me, LGBT obviously, in Scotland at that time, which was way back in the caveman days. LGBT was not something that you wanted to say you were or accept. Wasn't very well understood within the community. So there was a lot of prejudice and a lot of violence towards it. So growing up, I understood that I had to hide that piece of me. I saw there was violence against people that were LGBT, and I thought that was wrong, and I didn't really like that aspect of it. As I got a little bit older, I started getting an interest in law enforcement as far as how that should help protect the weak and look after those that needed help. Although at that time, even in Scotland, law enforcement was very anti-LGBT. The laws in the UK were very anti-LGBT. So kind of what you probably know from America, if you were in a government job and you were found out to be LGBT, you were considered a security risk. So you would be kicked out, and there would be news articles, and it would be detrimental to your life entirely. Kind of the whole aspect of it was almost impossible to be LGBT and be open and be out. So as I grew older, I started to recognize that the only way that could change would be to be involved. Get involved in government, get involved in law enforcement, get involved in making changes. So as I got older, I got more politically engaged. From the age of 12, I was involved in something called the Scottish Nationalist Party, which is a group that was looking for independence for Scotland. Scotland has always been an independent country, part of the United Kingdom. This is always confusing for Americans. So the United Kingdom has 4 countries, Scotland, England, Wales, and Northern Ireland, which is a separate island. Both Scotland, Wales, and Ireland have always wanted to split away from England after that union was formed, largely because England is the biggest country, so it has the most MPs. So whatever England wants to do, that happens, because Scotland, Wales, and Ireland combined does not have more MPs than England does. So there's always been a reluctance and a resistance to that. Excuse me. So that kind of got me engaged in civic action, thinking about doing things to boost Scottish nationalism, to boost anything that was downtrodden or marginalized. And being LGBT, I recognized that was part of that process. So the older I got, the more engaged I got, the more involved I became. I wanted to join the police force, but at that time there was a lot of unemployment. So the police were having very, very high standards for entering. So they required a university degree, they required perfect health, and I had a slight defect in one eye, and that prevented me from joining the regular police, the civilian police. So instead I went to the military police, and the military police at that time had a requirement that you could not be LGBT. So I lied to get into the military. I lied to get in there, pretending that I was not LGBT, joined the military police. And over that period of being in the military police and coming out of that, things in the UK changed. Politics changed. The approach to the LGBT community changed. But it was a very interesting change. I'm not sure if you know much of the history behind the LGBT movement and changes in the UK, but you may remember the miners' strike in the UK. It was a huge event that went on, I think, in the 80s in the UK, 80s or 90s. where the miners went on strike to try and get better wages and better conditions. Margaret Thatcher was the prime minister at that time. She wanted to break the unions, so she decided to deploy the police and the military against the unions. And at the time, the unions did not have a huge amount of strength and support, and they didn't have a lot of money in the background. So Thatcher was much more effective at breaking the miners and breaking up picket lines and putting in workers into the mines that were not part of the unions. Well, there was a small group of LGBT people in London that were trying to promote LGBT rights at the time. They weren't being very successful. They weren't getting a lot of attention. And they were also looking at other groups that were kind of marginalized and were having a hard time to try and support them. So this LGBT group from London started raising money to support the miners groups. So providing money so that they could pay the families that were basically getting no wages and were starving essentially. So they started collecting money for the miners in Wales and sending it to them. And the miners were happy to accept the money and accept the food and so on. Until the group in London asked to come out and actually meet the miners and present to them as to what they were doing. And there you had the thing of the rough and tough Welsh miners who were down digging coal, suddenly meeting these LGBT people that they had never known about in their lives, didn't know existed, were very uncomfortable with. And over time, that developed into a very positive thing. The LGBT groups were raising money. They were going out to Wales. They were meeting with the miners. They were supporting them. And that really built a connection that would have been otherwise likely untenable. It probably would never have happened otherwise. That would have probably been an isolated thing. But after Margaret Thatcher, the Labour government came to power, and the Labour government started thinking about LGBT rights and about the fact that they should perhaps change the legislation. But it was a very close vote. There were not a lot of votes in support of it. So it was kind of like a 50-50 thing. The thing that swung the vote was that a number of people that had been miners during the strike had become MPs. They wanted to get involved in politics. They were sitting in Parliament as Labour MPs. They remembered that the LGBT community had supported them during the strikes. So that was the swing vote that actually brought the legislation in that changed the law as far as LGBT things in the UK. So some things that would seem thoroughly unconnected and that you would think would never have any major impact had a huge impact in the UK. And that really changed perceptions in the UK. Things started to change tremendously. And when I came back out of the military, HIV and AIDS was a big thing in the UK. So I joined a group that was doing buddy counseling for HIV people, counseled a couple of people during that period, saw things change, saw the legislation start to change. And it just made me realize that one person can have a huge, significant difference to a number of people around me. So I guess it gave me the bug. It was like, I might not think I'm doing a huge amount, and I might not see the ripple effect that's going out there, but the reality is that one person can really change the world. So I think that's what keeps me engaged and keeps me involved, and I enjoy it. I would rather do that than just go to a bar and drink all night or sit at home and watch TV, even though I enjoy those things. But it makes me feel good inside.
But is there ever a fear that you're spreading yourself too thin? Because those are a lot of commitments. Because I know you give 110% everything. So when you look at just this list, which again is the pared down list, I can't imagine how you can full-time job, business owner, all of these commitments, have a little bit of free time, have time to travel with your husband and friends, and then just have some downtime where you just do you ever just sit home and just do nothing?
Yeah, actually, I find time. It's quite interesting. I did overcommit to a lot of things because I found them interesting and it was something I wanted to do. Quite quickly, the military got me interested in martial arts and self-defense. But when I came out of it, I couldn't find a club that would be comfortable to join. But I was interested in meditation and some other more ethereal things that people might not have been involved in at that point. But I started to understand that balance in life was important. So while I was committing a lot of time to a lot of things, I needed my own time as well. And I am a little bit antisocial. I need my downtime. So even though I can spend a lot of time with people, I need a day or two or an hour or two just to be on my own and just to do something separate. So I've always recognized that was important,
Sure.
and I've always found sometime somewhere to have that. Um, but I think better living through drugs, that definitely helps at times. No, I'm kidding. But
Nah.
my drug of choice is definitely whiskey. I enjoy a
So you
nice
do know
whiskey.
the meaning of
Yes. Sit down with a dram and just relax.
So you do know the meaning and power. You do know the meaning and power of
I do.
no, and you
I do.
can use it
Yes.
occasionally.
I mean, I
Okay.
don't use it too often. If I have the capacity and the ability to help and something needs to be done, I I will try and do it if I have the time. And I did recognize working with volunteer groups that a lot of times the people that are engaged in the volunteer groups don't always have all the skill sets or all the time or all the commitment to make things happen as I perceive they should happen. And I think my father was like this as well. It's like, if you want something done right, do it yourself. So I do have a bit of
Yeah.
that. It's do it yourselfitis. It's like, okay, if I want this done right and I want it done the way I think it should be done, I'll just go ahead and do it and I'll get it done. And that's always been a part of my nature. And I think because I wasn't great in school. I didn't really enjoy school that much. I found it a little boring and challenging. I liked individual things. So I was middle boy of three brothers, older brother, younger brother. I was definitely the black sheep. My older brother, black sheep. My older brother and younger brother, they were very much the same. They liked the same sports. They liked the same entertainment. They liked doing the same things. They would play badminton and tennis, and they would do all of these things together in team sports. I was off swimming on my own. I was off hiking the hills on my own. I was doing very individualistic things. Um, and I
Mm.
think that is part of it as well. I started to be okay on my own, okay doing things on my own, accomplishing things on my own. So I didn't really need a lot of people around me. And as I got into organizations, I started to recognize that people had certain skill sets, but there were certain things we wanted to do that just weren't getting done. So I just go ahead and do it and bring it back to the organization. And normally it was appreciated. Sometimes it wouldn't be, but it's okay, that's fine. So I just got into that habit. It's like, if I want it done, I'll do it.
Yeah. Don, if okay with you, I want to switch gears unless you want to.
Yes, I was going to say that. I mean, because this is fascinating too, and also congratulations on all of your successes and continued success with
Thank
this
you.
volunteering that you've been doing in all the organizations. Hopefully, there will be an uptick in people's
Yes, we hope.
participation and seeing the benefit of it, because everyone, as you said before, doesn't appreciate the police department until they
Yeah.
need someone. And I think there can be a lot of apathy until you truly realize how valuable the police is to
Yeah.
every city. So again, congratulations on that. I continued success with it, and we hope we can get you some
Thank
more
you.
volunteers. Gary, I think you need to join something else.
Them going out there, and people just come away with a very positive, empowering experience. So to me, it is an extremely powerful, cathartic, positive experience for almost everybody that goes to it. They explain the situation when he's walking in, and the whole environment just like exploded in applause and so on. So I think it was a unique and cathartic experience for him, and for almost everybody else that was there. That was a powerful moment.
Listen, all you need is your badminton racket and our shuttlecocks, and
Yes,
we're on our way.
absolutely.
It's done. Gary, pack your bags. We're going to Spain.
I'd have to dust mine off. And
I send suggestions because
Sure.
some people aren't smart like you. Gary needs a lot of suggestions. We would like a photo of you that we put on our artwork.
Clothed, unclothed.
Well,
That's a
what did you
question.
say?
none of your business, Gary. We're talking. Let the adults speak.
Backed it up.
No, he asked if he wanted it clothed or not clothed. So I might be using a bit of this footage, just so you know, for the teaser.
One of my past lives, I was actually an actor and a model, so I've got a lot of nude modeling photos. So I've had quite a diverse life.
Well, one of his email call center was like something nude actor. I'm like, excuse me?
Wait, nude actor or new to acting?
No,
Nude
nude actor.
actor.
Yeah, I did a lot of nude acting.
I'm intrigued now. Maybe we should just do this now.
Okay, it might be a three-parter.
Or a threesome.
Stop.
So back to business.
Let's get back on point.
Damn it.